Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning. We're just going to be audio only, and we're going to get right into it this morning. Because I was behind because I'm still trying to finish Dune. I'm about 85% of the way through Dune, and but I've been reading it in the mornings and going through, and so I was involved in that, and so I wasn't quite ready here. But I said, hey, we're just going to go easy this morning and go basically right into the Book of Exalted Deeds. Trying to finish Dune. Still plenty of time if you want to go through Dune so that you can discuss it with us on Table Talk when the movie comes out. We'll do a couple of table talks on Dune. The first one on the existing movie to kind of recap existing movie and book, and then also seeing the new movie in about a month. So I think it's later this month. It might be just about a month away. It might be the very first of March that the second movie comes out. So anyway, and then also yesterday, I completely forgot that I was supposed to go and have a belated Christmas with my family yesterday. For some reason, I was thinking that was February 6th, but that wouldn't make sense because February 6th isn't even a Saturday. So I got the date wrong. Thankfully, somebody texted me last night and was talking about what time to be there, and I was like, oh, so I got to go to the store. I got to buy stuff to make some dip with, and had to make that up, and then had to go and have Christmas. We shot model rockets. We did shoot model rockets. I had the nephews build model rockets, but previously we tried to shoot them and I had the wrong size engines. So we fixed that, and we are actually able to shoot the model rockets and have a good time. So good morning, James. Good morning. Good morning, Zero the Blade and PH. Good morning, Sable Phoenix. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, everybody. Let's see. Charlie's here. Good morning. Yeah, I think you're talking about the release of the movie. I think it is something like that. In fact, might as well just look that up. Let's see. Dune release date. Dune 2 release date. March 1st. Dune Part 2 release date March 1st. So there we go. I'm interested to know how they keep going with this, but also I'm really want to rewatch the movie, the first movie. Of course, I will before Table Talk. All right, so let's just get right into it here. Let's go back to the Book of Exalted Deeds, which was a fantastic conversation the other day that we can continue with here. So this is the I think we said this is one of the last 3.0 books, but of that era, the 3.0 Book of Exalted Deeds, that also had the mature logo, for mature audiences only sticker on it. Let's see. I think we just talked about violence here, so I think we were on relationships. Relationships, divided loyalties, crime and punishment, being ahead of your time, and then law, chaos, and good. Because we figured we had to talk about the relationship between those. It says relationships, implicit in D&D's definition of good, altruism, respect for life, and making sacrifices for the sake of others, is a sense that good is about maintaining a certain quality of relationship with others. A good character's relationship with other characters should be built on mutual respect for one another, whether their respect involves the companionship of an adventuring party or the intimacy of a marriage. There's nothing inherently evil about human or humanoid sexuality, and being a good character doesn't mean remaining a virgin. Certain religions and cultures in the D&D universe encourage, or at least condone, some people taking vows of chastity, but these are similar to vows of poverty or abstinence, rooted in the belief that giving up the enjoyment of something good and natural can have positive spiritual benefits, not derived from an attitude that sex is evil. A good character is not opposed to sex in principle, but will condone exploitive or coercive relationships, such as prostitution or the use of slaves for sex. So we were talking about that when we were talking about Doug's book, Faraway Bird, on Table Talk. So, prostitution, the use of slaves for sex, or sexual contact with children or others without power to enter freely and willingly into relationships of mutual respect. Also, within the context of respectful relationships, good characters exercise caution in the use of compulsion magic to force others' behavior. Spells such as Dominate Person, Guess, and Suggestion allow a caster to control another person, robbing that person of free will. This may not be an inherently evil act, but it certainly carries a tremendous ethical responsibility. Forcing anyone to commit an act of evil is a Dominate Person. Okay, Suggestion, of course, is core, right? Is Dominate Person, was that one in the core rulebook? Wait, what did I say? Did I misread something? Once an enemy is dominated, for example, he should not be killed, but shown mercy and treated the same as a prisoner who is willingly surrendered. The same holds true for charmed and compelled creatures. Oh, up here. I believe I found it. It says a good character or is not opposed to sex in principle, but will not condone. I think I may have said that. May have thought that I had read condemn there, but it will not condone exploitive or coercive sexual relationships such as prostitution, the use of slaves for sex, etc. I believe that was the passage you were just talking about, Sable. So yeah, will not condone those things. Perhaps the most important area of relationships for player characters involves the character's interactions with other members of the party. A good character respects the other characters, treats them fairly, and values their lives as highly as his own. That said, he is within his rights to expect the same treatment from them. Neutral characters are often joined to an adventuring party through the bonds of friendship and loyalty to the characters, and good characters respect those bonds and can trust a friend, even those who are not good. Evil characters typically join adventuring parties purely for selfish reasons. Paladins, of course, are prohibited from associating with evil characters, but other Exalted PCs should also steer clear of evil companions unless the evil character is attempting to reform herself and making progress toward neutrality at least. Good characters in parties that also include neutral characters carry a weighty burden of responsibility. They should serve as examples of the good life, demonstrating that virtue and rewards of following the virtuous path. They must steer their neutral companions away from evil deeds and ought to encourage them toward goodness as gently or as bluntly as the individual case requires. Good characters can be guilty by association with neutral characters who commit evil deeds and simply turn a blind eye to question. Can be guilty by association, and simply turning a blind eye to the questionable act is not an acceptable option. The important prohibition can cause great deal of friction in an adventuring party. Some players build their characters off the idea of being roguish, unsavory, perhaps a little brutal. If the paladin of the party is constantly getting in the way of that character's approach to things, everyone's enjoyment of the game is at risk. Many of these problems can be eliminated at the outset by working to achieve a consensus among the players regarding what type of game you're going to play. That doesn't mean that everyone needs to agree to play good characters and stick to the straight and narrow, but players who want to play neutral characters need to know in front of what they're getting into, and the whole group needs to decide what, to extent, ethical debate is going to be part of every game session. If everyone's happy with the paladin and the rogue constantly being at cross purposes, then the group decides to make that a central part of the role-playing experience. That's fine, as long as the players treat the others with respect and the characters don't split the party into two warring fashions. That's two different ways to split the party right there. Don't split them in this way either. I would say having actual players at the table. My general preference would be to not have players at the table constantly at cross purposes. Or, yeah. Doc Flamingo, hello, Doc Flamingo, says, this is why alignment is stupid and obnoxious. That can be. That's where I was going in some ways. Just because, especially if you're going to look at it, especially in straitjacket kind of alignment here, why have this happen to the party? To the group, by that, the players sitting there at the table. Divided loyalties. For better or for worse, the paladin is not just good. She is lawful good. So here we do have the law, chaos, and alignment coming in. By the radiance of righteousness, what malevolence is this? Baldur's Gate 1 quote. I like that. Sable says, I disagree. Alignment is descriptive, not prescriptive. It doesn't restrict your actions. It's a result of them. Well, what about the, what did it say here about paladins here? Paladins, of course, are prohibited from associating with evil creatures. But Exalted PCs, and I think we're going to find out what Exalted is, should also steer clear of evil companions unless the evil character is attempting to reform herself by making progress toward neutrality at best. Sable says, I'm a huge fan of Planescape, and that setting just does not work without alignment. For better or for worse, paladins are not just good, they're lawful good, sworn not to just uphold the principles of good, but also bound by a code of conduct, and subject to local law as well. Many paladins are also members of a specific deity's church, a knightly order of some sort, or both. In both times, these various loyalties, her codes of conduct, the church's laws, her orders, demands, the laws of her nations, and the abstraction of her alignment are all in harmony. So I guess that's if Sable is saying that the alignment is more descriptive here. Well, what's actually what is a restriction on the paladin's actions? Is the alignment not a restriction on the paladin's actions? And is it rather that the code of conduct, the church's laws, the orders, demands, the laws of the nation, those are the things that would restrict the paladin's actions, but that the alignment would actually not? Is that what you're saying, Sable? Sable says, they even just called it the abstraction of alignment. Yes, this is D&D 3.0, Jason. We're back in this classic book layout. When circumstances are not so ideal, she finds herself torn between conflicting demands. Her superior in her knightly order commands her to kill a brutal murderer who has escaped punishment in court on a legal technicality, for example. Her personal code requires that she punish those that harm innocents, and this killer certainly falls into that category. However, her personal code also instructs her to respect legitimate authority, which includes both her knightly superior and the local law that has let the killer go free. The demands of her good alignment suggest the demands of her good alignment suggest listen to this language here, which is why I mean, but this is also like when talking about alignment here, the language here is completely inconsistent. So the demands of her good alignment suggest that she should punish the wrongdoer, but the demands of her lawful alignment insist that she obey the judgment of the courts. So this right here does seem like the alignment is partially just a suggestion, because the demands of her good alignment suggest that she should punish the wrongdoer. But the demands of her lawful alignment insist that she obey the judgment of the court. Okay? So that's some inconsistency in language right there. Why do the demands of good alignment suggest that you punish the wrongdoer, whereas the demands of being lawful insist that she obey the judgment of the court? Oh, why is that? Why is that? Maybe I think there's been a failure to over the many years to really communicate consistently what alignment is, and this is another example of that. Doc Flamingo says, I've personally found that when hard behavior lines are drawn on character personalities, be they alignment or personality dictating quirks, they hinder role-playing, not help it. PH says, I would always mix good and evil characters just to hear, steal your heart, noble companion. For the crucible of camaraderie, I shall not be swayed by the shadow that seek to taint our fellowship. It seems to be confusing good to mean also lawful in this situation. Punishment is a function of law, not good. Oh, so you think that the demands of her good alignment suggest that she punish. But you're thinking that that's not the case. James is saying that perhaps that's that's also rather lawful. Sable says both of them can be ethical demands, but obviously in that situation, you're going to have to choose one or the other. Ethical demands aren't anymore forcing you to behave a certain way than actual laws do, but there will be consequences for choosing not to follow them. Well, let's see what this continues to say. It's entirely possible that either her superior or the magistrate in this case is corrupt or even possessed. Whom does she obey? How does she sort out the conflicting demands of her loyalties? Paladins are by no means alone in this situation. Any character who tries consistently to do good eventually finds himself in a situation where different loyalties are in conflict. Chaotic good characters might care far less about the potentially corrupt or at least ineffectual court system, but they might have other personal standards or obligations that cause conflict in similar or different situations. In the end, however, many such conflicts boil down to questions of priorities. And for a character who aspires to exalted deeds, good is the highest priority. In the example above, the murderer must at least be captured, if not killed, before she can kill again, or he can kill again. If she has no reason to suspect corruption either in the court or in her own order, the paladin... Oh no, if she does. So if a character aspires to exalted deeds, good is the highest priority. In the example above, the murderer must at least be captured, if not killed, before he can kill again. If the character has a reason to suspect corruption, either in the court or her own order, the paladin must attempt to uncover it, although it might mean being cast out of her order, punishment under local law, or both. Her paladinhood and her exalted status remain intact, since she acted in the cause of good, even when that required questioning the legitimacy of authority. Magistrates or knightly superiors who serve the cause of evil while posing as agents of good are not a legitimate authority, and the paladin is right for exposing their corruption. I remember 3 more. Foul deeds demand retribution. Prepare to face the consequences of your malevolent actions. That was such a great game. So what does a good character do when he is opposed by good? 2 good nations might go to war. 2 good adventuring parties might be working toward opposite goals. Or 2 good characters might become bitter enemies. As discussed under violence, however, violence against good creatures is not good. When conflict arises, as it will certainly at times, good characters must use every diplomatic means available to avoid the outbreak of violence, whether between nations, smaller groups, or individuals. In the D&D universe, if one side's goals are actually evil, a relatively simple commune spell can make that abundantly clear. Diplomacy might not always work, but the outbreak of violence is not just a failure of diplomacy. It is a failure of good and a victory for evil. Steel Mongoose says, when I was a cop, I felt constrained to smite anyone who was acquitted, including for traffic tickets. Yeah, that's a good point. So, well, here's crime and punishment right here. So now we're going to crime and punishment. When dealing with evildoers who are citizens of the realm specifically, or members of the civilized humanoid races, dwarf, elf, gnome, half-elf, half-orc, halfling, human, in general, it's often preferable to bring evildoers to justice in the forms of legitimate legal authority rather than meting out justice oneself. When fighting through a dungeon, characters needn't switch to subtle... characters needn't switch to subdual tactics when they suddenly encounter evil dwarf minions. But if those minions surrender, it's best to take prisoners back to town for them to stand trial for their crimes. When the adventure takes place in the city and opponents are citizens of the city rather than evil monsters from the sewers or deeper underground, subduing opponents and returning them over to the city watch is preferable to killing them and probably being forced to stand trial for murder. We definitely have different standards for inside and outside the culture right here. It definitely is going on right here of your particular civilization. The principles of good make certain demands about how criminals are treated. The death penalty for serious crimes is commonly practiced and widely accepted and does not qualify as evil, even if many good characters, firm in their belief that redemption is always possible, would rather see the vilest criminals offered the opportunity to find their way to righteousness during their imprisonment. Torturing prisoners, either to extract information or simply as a means of punishment, is unequivocally evil, however. This leads good characters, especially lawful good characters, into a dilemma. Is it wrong to turn a prisoner over to a legitimate authority knowing the prisoner will be tortured and abused in captivity? Fortunately, the answer is straightforward, if sometimes difficult to implement. Yes, delivering a person over to be tortured, even if the person is thoroughly evil and the torturers are a legitimate authority, is evil. How to avoid being put in that position is a much more difficult question, and one that depends greatly on the circumstances. Hey, Tomocrat. Being ahead of your time. Heroic characters often end up at odds with their culture and society. The standards expected of good characters in D&D, especially those who lay claim to exalted status, bear much more similarity to modern sensibilities about justice, equality, and respect for life than the actual medieval world that D&D is loosely based on, and that's quite intentional. It is certainly possible that your campaign world might be a more enlightened place than medieval Europe, a place where men and women are considered equal, slavery is not practiced in any form, torture and capital punishments are shunned, and various human and humanoid races live together in harmony. In such a case, an exalted character can live in relative peace with her culture and focus her attention on slaying evil creatures in ruins and dungeons or rival evil nations. On the other hand, your character's campaign or your campaign world might be more closely reflect the realities of Earth's dark or Middle Ages. Perhaps women are not viewed as men's equals or even sentient beings in their own right. Slavery is widespread. Testimony from serfs is only acceptable if extracted through torture. And humans of a certain skin tone, let alone non-humans, are viewed as demonic creatures. It's vitally important to remember one thing. These factors don't change anything else said in this chapter or in the Book of Vile Darkness about what constitutes good or evil deed. Even if slavery, torture, or discrimination are condoned by society, they remain evil. That simply means that an exalted character has an even harder road to follow. Not only must she worry about external evils like conjuring demons and rampaging orc hordes, she must also contend with the evils within her own society. Sounds like a great opportunity to play out a Heroine's Labyrinth campaign. So that appears again. So we've got both the Hero's Journey style campaigns and the Heroine's Labyrinth campaign, if you think that there's a problem with your own society here. Doc Flamingo says, that's not always going to be clear, the corruption part. So where does that put the paladin who, by these standards, is bound to the lawful behaviors? Laws, even well-meant ones, were often needlessly harsh. PH says, that's why I always made neutral good characters, to have more freedom in the game. Tomocrat says, I'm still a pro-alignment for the system. It's meant to guide you in a direction of play. It's just the alignment stupid players that mess it all up. And James tends to agree with that, it seems. Like in all likelihood, most human and halfling societies fall somewhere between the two extremes described above. In game terms, however, humans tend to be neutral, neither good nor evil. Human societies might tolerate a variety of evil practices, even if some humans find them distasteful. In such a circumstance, an exalted character is still at odds with the norms of her society and may occasionally find herself in conflict with it, but she can devote her time and attention to dealing with evil acts, either inside or outside her society, rather than trying to reform an entire nation or culture. In situations where society's practice puts good characters at odds with it, a good character's alignment is the strongest indicator of how she will deal with that conflict. All right, let's see what it says about law, chaos, and good then here. It says, lawful good characters by no means have a monopoly on goodness. Although all paladins are lawful good, plenty of exalted characters of all character classes are chaotic good or neutral good, and they exemplify the ideals of good in the D&D universe, no less than the paladin. There are differences between the goodness of a lawful character and that of his chaotic good counterpart, just as there are marked differences between the archons and eladrins that embody the alignment of the celestial realms. So lawful good characters possess a sense of discipline, honor, and community that other characters do not necessarily share. Lawful good characters are members of the monastic or knightly orders, church hierarchies, or organizations devoted to righteous causes. They believe that morality can be legislated, promote the establishment of just societies whose laws and customs inculcate good behavior in citizens. Lawful good adventurers fight evil knowing that they have to support the legal system. They have the support of the legal system behind them. They are bringing criminals to justice as well as opposing evil. In an evil culture, or one that tolerates evil, lawful good characters are in a difficult situation. On one hand, they abhor evil and cannot stand to see it institutionalized. On the other hand, they believe in legitimate authority and will not overthrow a kingdom because evil practices are within it. Lawful good characters try to work to change flawed social structures from within, using whatever political power is available to them, rather than toppling those structures by force. Mike says, how many layers deep does one's responsibility go? If you turn an evil prisoner over for trial, but somewhere down the line they're tortured, how deep do you need to think? Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a reasonable question too. But I think it did talk about whether or not you know that. Like, if you knew they were going to be tortured, that was one thing. It sounds like if it was incidental somewhere in the system, then you wouldn't have responsibility, according to this. Doc Flamingo says, I think he's referring to using whatever political power is available to them rather than toppling those structures by force, such as by standing in traffic. Steele says, and by whose standards are torture or any other particularly evil act? Well, this is of course, it's the D&D. I think that what they're saying here is that that's the standard of the alignment system in the D&D universe itself. PH says, I think alignment is too simplistic nowadays, and we have more consciousness about the complexity of one's mind. I find newer approaches more interesting, using specific drives of personality. I don't think I've ever felt the need to incorporate alignment into an RPG that wasn't D&D, where the alignment is actually, a functional mechanical part of the game. Alignment is functional and mechanical in D&D. This sword does extra damage to evil creatures. Ah, that's an evil creature. It's a functional mechanical part of the game. I don't think in any other type of game, though, I felt the need to have that in there. I think it really just hasn't even come up. Chaotic good. Chaotic good characters are strong-willed individualists who tolerate no oppression, even in the name of the common good. They usually work alone or in loose bands, rather than part of some organization or hierarchy. They have no confidence in the ability of laws or social mores to train people in good behavior. Indeed, they have seen all too often how people hide behind the rules of law as an excuse for evil or at least irresponsible acts. While promoting a legal system that places a few restrictions on individual freedom, chaotic good individuals look to other forces, religion, philosophy, or community, for example, to encourage good behavior and punish evil. Chaotic good adventurers fight evil because it's evil, not because it's illegal. In societies where evil practices are tolerated, well, right, Sable is saying, except in the D&D setting, there are actual dimensions that are physical manifestations of the alignment, right? That's what I was talking about, it being a material and mechanical aspect. They're actually part of the cosmology, not just a philosophy. Well, Steel Mongoose says, I see D&D as a rule set. It's my job to create the setting. It depends on, certainly if you've got by the time you've got something like the SRD, well, this may not even exactly be true here, because alignment is in the SRD, right? But there's a lot less of the cosmology like Sable is talking about. Because, see, I would say here, I would say that in many cases there's overlap between D&D, the game, D&D as a specific system of rules, and D&D as a particular way of playing and setting that comes with it. I mean, certainly in, for example, I mean, here is the 3.5 player's handbook. And so we certainly have built-in information here about race, what races are particularly in this world, classes, the way they operate, the way that magic operates, skills. But then we've even have feat. Well, we got feats in here. Equipment. I thought we had gods in here too. Do we not actually talk about the gods here? Maybe not. I think in 3 there was definitely discussion of gods, right? Oh, it's might be under description. Let's go take a look at 1.03 or 103. Alignment. Okay, so we got alignment in here. Good versus evil, law versus chaos, the 9 alignments. Religion. So at this point in this book, yeah, we're not talking about just rule system, go create your system, but we've got a lot of crossover here into this actual world. So is Dungeons & Dragons 3.0 or 3.5 here a rule system, or is it also a setting? I think it's both. I think this book is set up to be both. Doc Flamingo says, that's just it. You can have a lot of ideas on what constitutes good or evil. The initial law chaos system worked better. PH says, yes, if you have no god, you would go to your alignment plane. There are even options to make alignment clerics. Doc Flamingo says, it's like those political compass tests. Adding the additional axis muddies the ideas while attempting to clarify. I suppose we looked at, well, I guess that was in the Rule Cyclopedia. Did that one just have chaos and law? Might have. Tomocrat says, I was watching Dragon Slayer on Retro Nerd Girl's site, her channel, and the captain of the guard of lawful neutral, wanting to maintain total balance for the realm. The same for the princess. I saw that she was watching Dragon Slayer. We talked about Dragon Slayer once. I remember watching that a long time ago. I saw that scroll by that she was watching that on her channel. We might have to check it out sometime with her. So it says, in societies where evil practices are tolerated, chaotic good characters are most likely rebels, and they have few hesitations about overthrowing the existing order if it means eliminating those evils. Yeah, I almost said Greyhawk because I thought that was the case. That 3 and 3.5 was pretty squarely set in Greyhawk as the default setting. I think that's why there are fleshed out gods and religions, same as 5e with the Forgotten Realms. Right, when you pick up the 5e core book, you are playing in Forgotten Realms because they change up which particular setting is your default. They don't just give you a rule book. They're giving you a setting as well. Here's the place to play fantasy. And so, right. So it is, for better or for worse, Forgotten Realms became the standard in 5e. Doc says, even 1e made a lot of references to the Greyhawk gods. So it's both. Both a rule set and a setting. Of course, it could be multiple settings too. It's not really, I think, until you get to the idea of an SRD that you think about the rules being abstracted out. Although people may have done that earlier than that. Google. Neutral good characters occupy an indistinct middle ground. They espouse the ideas of good and none other. As a rule, they don't care whether good is imposed through laws or customs or encouraged by temples and philosophers. They just want goodness to flourish. Legislating morality sometimes works, and that's as far as it goes. When lawful good societies begin legislating every detail of their citizens' lives, however, passing laws on subjects that have no bearing on good and evil, the neutral good citizens become impatient. They support laws which promotes good, but not law for its own sake. Similarly, they like the idea of personal freedom, but they're not sure everybody should have it. Too much freedom gives evildoers too much room to prosper. Like chaotic good adventurers, neutral good ones fight evil because it's evil, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have the backing of a legal authority wherever possible. Neutral good characters in societies will tolerate evil, resist evil to the extent they can without actively working to overthrow the government. They protest injustice, sometimes engage in civil disobedience, since unjust laws are useless and not binding in their view. And see why PH was an advocate of neutral good. I actually wanted a bit more information because we talked about, I thought we were going to get into more detail here. Greyhawk gods and magic. Yes, then you also have the names of spells like Tensor's floating discs, Bigby's hand, Mordenkainen's disjunction. Although that's a bit the proper names on the spells. Of course, there's a history to them, I guess. But yes, that's setting information in there, but that's rather light, I've always thought. Playing a hero. A righteous crusader. So what do we do here? I don't think righteous crusader. Oh, the fated champions. We've got different examples. So the following examples detail an assortment of heroic archetypes that exemplify various aspects of virtue, morality, and good. They can be used to provide ideas for NPCs to serve as allies or companions of the player heroes, as plot hooks or patrons, or just as the focus of adventure. So we have an example of the righteous crusader, the fated champion, the benevolent healer, the holy teacher, the peasant hero, the redeemed villain. More than anyone, a redeemed villain understands that no soul is beyond salvation. Oh, here is exalted characters. So what does this actually mean? We kept hearing about playing an exalted character. So let's see what that is. Exalted characters. A chaotic good barbarian swinging a holy great axe is a very different character from the chaotic good sorcerer wielding holy arcane power. Members of different character classes follow the exalted path in different ways. The following section describes some of these ways, including exalted feat choices and prestige class options for characters of each basic class. So the exalted barbarian. Okay, so that's not like a template that goes on top of everything. There's a specific information on different types of characters by class when they are exalted. So let's just see what happens here. The exalted barbarian, not at all the oxymoron some might think. An exalted barbarian is chaotic good by necessity. He stands opposed to evil in the decadent urban society, the tyranny of evil rulers, and the machinations of evil. An exalted barbarian's rage is an unearthly manifestation of celestial wrath against the forces of evil. His greatest challenge is ensuring that in the heart of his rage, he does not commit an evil act by mistake. So exalted feat choices. Knight of Stars, quell the profane, resounding blow, righteous wrath, sanctify martial strike. Prestige class options, champion of Gwen Harfwith, risen martyr, skylord, sword of righteousness. Okay, so wait a minute. Are there more feats in here that's telling you to take? By the way, it was talking about what exalted characters are. I was also kind of expecting more out of that. So feats, exalted feats, 39. Okay, let's skip over there and see what this is. 39. This chapter features new feats that enhance exalted characters or campaigns. They provide new capabilities and improve existing ones. So this book introduces a new type of feat, the exalted feat. Only intelligent characters of good alignment and the highest moral standards can acquire exalted feats, and only as a gift from a powerful agent of good, such as a deity, celestial, or similar creatures. These feats are thus supernatural in nature, rather than being extraordinary abilities as most feats are. Okay. A character must have a GM's permission to take an exalted feat. In many cases, a ritual must be performed. Often this simply amounts to a character swearing a sacred vow, for example, in the presence of a celestial being. A character who willingly and willfully commits an evil act loses all benefits of his exalted feats. She regains these benefits if she atones for her violations. See Sin and Atonement in page 1. Aura of Good. A character with at least one exalted feat radiates an aura of good with a power equal to her character level. See the Detect Good spell. If she were a paladin of a cleric, as if she were a paladin or cleric of a good deity. Hey, Stray. Good morning. We need to look up, see if we've got an art credit in here. Interior artists. Oh, we got a bunch of them. Who are you looking for? Ron Spencer? I don't see the credit here. Tom Baxa, Stephen Belladin, Matt Cavotta, Brent Chumley. Oh, no, Ron Spencer is here. Yep, Ron Spencer is here. You called it. PH says, I believe they couldn't fit more mechanical rules on the games. They made the Exalted being something you get by role-playing and doing specific actions in the game, as everything should be. Yeah, they also had like Paragon. They had like a Paragon of, that was like a prestige class for your race or something. So Ancestral Relic. You own an ancestral heirloom that can invest with increasing power. So that's a feat. Ancestral Relic. Well, okay, here's our table 1 feats. Oh, general. So that's a general feat. So that says that's not an exalted feat. Consecrate spell-like ability. Purify spell-like ability. Resounding blow. Spell focus. Subduing strike. Exalted deeds. Exalted feats include things like Animal Friend, Celestial Familiar, Celestial Mount, Consecrate Spell Trigger, Exalted Companion, Exalted Smite, Exalted Spell Resistance, Exalted Turning, Exalted Wild Shape, Favored Companions, Fist of the Heavens, Gift of Faith, Gift of Grace, Hands of a Healer, Holy Subdual, Intuitive Attack, Night of Stars, Nemesis, Nimbus of Light, Nymph's Kiss. Nymph's Kiss is oh no, it's +2 bonus on charisma related checks, +1 bonus on saving throws against spells, 1 extra skill point per level. Quell the Profane, Sacred Vows, Vow of Abstinence, Chastity, Non-Violence, Peace, Obedience, Poverty, Purity. Let's go. Okay, so what were we saying here? Mike says, reading D&D reminds me of how much work a DM is expected to do and information to know during play. So with this example, let's see, we were looking at, we'd skipped ahead. We have exalted equipment. So we were saying exalted barbarian. So exalted feat choices include something like Knight of the Stars. Knight of the Stars, exalted. It's over here. You swear allegiance to the court of stars, the paragons of the Eldarin, In exchange, they gain power to act on their behalf. Benefit: once per day, while performing an act of good, you may call upon your elder and patron to gain a +1 luck bonus on any one roll or check. Special: once you take this feat, you may not take it again, nor may you take either the Servant of the Heavens feat or Favor of the Companion's feat. Your allegiance is yours only to give once. So on that, once per day, when performing an act of good, you can get a +1 luck bonus to one roll or check. That doesn't seem like that's not a huge benefit. What is Quell the Profane? Quell the Profane, Exalted. Your mightiest attacks weaken evil foes. Prerequisite: Strength 13, Power Attack, Resounding Blow, and a base attack bonus of +8. Benefit: whenever you deal a critical hit to an evil creature using a melee weapon with which you are proficient, your opponent must succeed on a Fortitude save, DC 10 plus 1/2 your character level plus your Charisma modifier, or take 1d4 points of temporary strength damage. A monk's unarmed strike is considered a melee weapon for the purposes of this feat. That's more like a feat, in my opinion. But there's a lot of prerequisites there. Strength 13, Power Attack, Resounding Blow, base attack bonus of +8. Then your opponent has got to make a Fortitude save of DC 10 plus 1/2 your character level plus your Charisma modifier, or take 1d4 points of temporary strength damage. There's also a lot to that. Oh, Stray's gifted a membership. Thank you, Stray, so much. Let's see. Who got it? Oh, Doc Flamingo. Doc Flamingo was gifted a membership. Well, all right, Doc. Great to have you here this morning. Been enjoying your commentary here, so thank you very much, Stray, for the gift. And now Doc Flamingo is on board. Thank you, Stray. What's another one? Resounding Blow. Resounding Blow right here. This is also available to a barbarian. Your mightiest attacks cause your foes to tremble before you. Prerequisite: Strength 13, Power Attack, Intimidate 7 ranks. I don't remember anything. I don't remember what. Oh, so this is a prerequisite to Quell the Profane. But I don't remember what Power Attack was. It's been so long since I played any kind of since I played 3rd edition. Here's feats. Power Attack is right here. I kind of remember the most useful ones were in the core book anyway. Power Attack. You can make an exceptionally powerful melee attack. Prerequisite: Strength 13 plus. On your action, before making an attack roll for a round, you may choose to subtract a number from all melee attack rolls and add the same number to all melee damage rolls. This number may not exceed your base attack bonus. The penalty on attacks and bonuses on damage apply until your next turn. If you attack with a two-handed weapon or with a one-handed weapon wielded in two hands, instead add twice the number subtracted from your attack rolls. You can't add the bonus from power attack to the damage dealt with light weapons, except with unarmed strikes of natural weapon attacks, even though the penalty on the attack still applies. Normally, you can treat a double weapon as a one-handed weapon and a light weapon. Normally, you treat a double weapon as a one-handed weapon and a light weapon. Oh, normally you can treat a double weapon. Double weapon. I forgot that was a thing, not double-handed weapon. That's why but a double weapon. I forgot they had things like that in 3rd edition, where you have a axe with an axe head on both sides, and they were calling that a double axe, or a sword blade, like Darth Maul's sword, like a double sword. Hey, Robert. Okay, so yeah, right. Mike called it. Power attack lets you trade to hit bonuses for damage bonuses. You got it. Let's see. So we're seeing what Resounding Blow was. You also have to have an Intimidate 7 ranks. 7 ranks in Intimidate plus the ability to do a power attack plus Strength 13. So when you get the Quell the Profane, that has a prerequisite of having Resounding Blow, you also have to have Intimidate of 7+ ranks. So there was a lot of prereq tree here. The resounding blow. When you deal a critical hit using a melee weapon with which you are proficient, your opponent must succeed on a will save, DC 10 plus 1/2 your character level plus your charisma modifier, or cower for 1 round. Amongst unarmed strike is considered a melee weapon for the purposes of this feat. Special, a fighter may select resounding blow as one of her fighter bonus feats. So, what it means to be exalted. Yep, here we go. Is basically you need the blessing of something good. And this gives you access to certain feats, but you only get that with the GM's permission and when you've got and when you have an in-universe, in-game ready a reason to do it. So like an exalted paladin. If an exalted barbarian seems a bit like an oxymoron, then the exalted paladin probably sounds redundant. All paladins, of course, are called to be exemplars of the lawful good alignment, and to the extent that they succeed, they are among the finest examples of exalted player characters as well. Exalted feat choices include Celestial Mount, Exalted Smite, Exalted Turning, Gift of Grace, Hands of the Healer, Holy Radiance, Nimbus of Light, Quell the Profane, Ranged Smite Evil, Resounding Blow, Sacred Vow, Sanctify Martial Strike, Servant of the Heavens. Prestige class options include Anointed Knight, Defender of Sealtiel, Emissary of Barakiel, Fist of Raziel, Prophet of Arathol, Risen Martyr, Sword of Righteousness, Vassal of Bahamut. So are we going to have, do we have prestige classes in here? Okay, yes, that's all a list of prestige classes over here. Oh, here's Paragons, Celestial Paragons. So we also have Paragons in this book. Celestial monster classes. The Savage Species Sourcebook contains rules for treating monsters as character classes, an alternative system to the monster advancement system presented in the monster manual. Unlike other classes, a monster class has a maximum number of levels equal to the creature's starting ECL. For example, a Hound of Archon starting ECL, wasn't that like equivalent class level? I think it was, of 11. Or maybe it's not important here. I thought that was something different. But using Savage Species for player character races. Exalted Sorcerer. Exalted Wizards. I mean, some of the, I don't know, I guess right here. So this is Spencer right here. This one's actually credited right here. I think this one's a bit questionable for what it is. Good and evil battle to the death. So sin and atonement. Doc Flamingo says Basher or Bob for paladins of the Church of Subgenius. Not sure. PH says every book from 3.5 was expected to have new prestige classes. It's why it got so much out of control. Yeah, or at least that's what they said. That might have been an internal expectation as well. But I remember reading at the time. Oh, players love new player options. Books, you got to have new player options, new classes to play, new, prestige classes. New races and things like that. I always felt like that was some of the least useful parts of the book because we never used them. I mean, how many different characters can you really play anyway? And so I always found, and a lot of the times that the best ones that you really needed anyway were in the core books, like feats. Oh yeah, new feats for your players, or new feats for players. Well, the core ones are in the core book anyway, and there's the ones you need. So it did get out of control. So let's see what it says about sin and atonement. The higher one standards, the easier it is to fall short of them. There are times in any campaign when players of good characters make bad choices or are forced into a choice between two evils, and end up committing the lesser. The dangers are great. Paladins and good clerics might lose class abilities or spell access, and other characters could lose access to exalted feats. Depending on the severity of the transgression, good characters might become neutral or even evil, either one in cataclysmic fall over the course of the long down or over the course of a long downward spiral. The powers of good would be hypocritical if they demanded that mortals offer forgiveness to one another while they themselves withhold it from mortals who displease them. Therein is the blessing and assurance that all good creatures can cling to. There is no sin so great that it cannot be forgiven. However, just as when player characters extend forgiveness to villains, forgiveness is predictive upon repentance. A character who has committed an evil act cannot simply obtain an atonement spell and carry on as if nothing has happened. She must first make amends for her actions, at least try to repair any damage she caused by offering sincere apologies to those who might still hold resentment against her. She must also demonstrate a willingness to try harder in the future to avoid such actions, a real commitment to avoiding evil at all costs, and in many cases, she must also perform an act of penance, a good deed that most likely has nothing to do with reparations to those she injured, but simply demonstrates a renewed commitment to good. With all these criteria met, the powers of good joyfully welcome straying sheep who return to the fold, and an atonement spell subsequently cast can have its full effect, restoring a paladin's class, restoring a cleric or druid spell powers, or restoring the benefit of exalted deeds to any character. Atonement. Atonement, it says just in here, this spell removes the burden of evil acts or misdeeds from the subject. So that's so this book, so the Book of Exalted Deeds is supposed to do more than that. Because otherwise, just saying this spell removes the burden of evil acts or misdeeds from the subject. The creature seeking atonement must be truly repentant and desirous of setting right its misdeeds. If the atoning creature commits the evil act unwillingly or under some form of compulsion, atonement operates normally at no cost to you. However, in the case of a creature atoning, there's a lot here. For deliberate misdeeds or acts that are knowingly or of a knowing and willful nature, you must intercede with your deity, requiring you to spend 500 XP in order to expunge the subject's burden. Oh, you, the spellcaster, you must intercede with your deity, requiring you to spend 500 XP in order to expunge the subject's burden. Many casters first assign a subject of this sort a quest, see guess or quest, a similar penance to determine whether the character is truly contrite before casting an atonement spell on its behalf. Atonement may be cast for one of several purposes depending on the version selected. Reverse magical alignment change. If a creature has had its alignment magically changed, atonement returns it to its alignment of its original status at no cost in experience points. Restore class. A paladin who's lost a class feature due to committing an evil act may have her paladinhood restored by this spell. Restore cleric or druid powers. Redemption or temptation. You may cast this spell upon a creature of an opposing alignment in order to offer it a chance to change its alignment to match yours. The prospective subject must be present for the entire casting process. Upon the completion of the spell, the subject freely chooses whether to retain its original alignment or acquiesces to your offer and changes your alignment. No duress, compulsion, or magical influence can force the subject to take advantage of this opportunity offered if it is unwilling to abandon its old alignment. This use of the spell does not work on outsiders or any creature incapable of changing its alignment naturally. That's interesting. Though the spell description refers to evil acts, atonement can also be used for any creature that has performed acts against its alignment, whether those acts are evil, good, chaotic, or lawful. Note, normally changing alignment is up to a player for PCs and DMs for NPCs. This use of atonement simply offers a believable way for a character to change his or her alignment drastically, suddenly, and definitively. Interesting. Zero the Blade says, the Dragon book from 3.5 was the only book I read because the new lore it gave to dragons. I think I remember there being a really good dragon book for this. Doc Flamingo says, Rollmaster got really out of control with classes. It had farmer and fisherman in the companion books. I don't care how good a farmer you are. You're not a 20th level farmer. We haven't really looked at Rollmaster here on the show. PH says, as I already said, my group was always made of aberrations. We used min-maxed races with templates and prestige classes. We used to terrorize villagers before convincing them we were there to help. Gesh. Gesh. That's it. Because I knew it wasn't like geese, and I was trying to remember what was the pronunciation of that word. It's Gesh. That's right. I had the U in the wrong place. I was like, it's not. I thought it was guess. No, it's Gesh. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to work on those. I've got some editing to do on some Table Talk clips that we're going to be bringing out toward the end of this month. But then also, I really need to get the landing pages up for both the dice giveaway for the cultists and its game, and then also for the online coffee shops so we can play games. I'd like to run the next event in maybe about 2 weeks. If we can do that in about 2 weeks, I think Saturdays are going to be better than Fridays, because if we start earlier on Fridays, I feel like Saturday afternoon and Saturday and Friday afternoon, people aren't going to be available, generally speaking, because the people will be working on Friday afternoon, and then on Saturdays, there are other things to do. But I feel like we can start earlier on a Saturday than we can on a Friday. So I'm hoping to do that in about 2 weeks, but I'm working on that now. So I'll set up the landing pages so people can sign up. That's the big deal for today. So everybody, please go forward and be creative, be constructive, be productive. I'm glad we learned how to pronounce Gesh. And I will see you tomorrow. Later, everybody.